This is Judges 9. Gideon, also known as Jerubbaal, has passed away. Now we come to the story of Abimelech, Gideon's son by his concubine in Shechem. Abimelech is not the next judge of Israel. He's the antithesis of a judge. He arises as a ruler in Israel without approval from Yahweh whatsoever. Verse 1. Abimelech the son of Jerubbaal went to Shechem to his mother's brothers and spoke with them, and with all the family of the house of his mother's father, saying, Please speak in the ears of all the men of Shechem. Is it better for you that all the sons of Jerubbaal, who are 70 persons, rule over you, or that one rule over you? Remember also that I am your bone and your flesh. His mother's brothers spoke of him in the ears of all the men of Shechem all these words. Their hearts inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, He is our brother. They gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the house of Baal-berith, with which Abimelech hired vain and light fellows who followed him. Comment: Abimelech was born in Shechem, but he doesn't live there anymore. He lives in Arumah, which is nearby, Judges 9:41. As the son of Gideon, he feels like something of a big shot, but he has a chip on his shoulder because his mother was a concubine and not a wife, and he has a driving ambition. Ambition is not necessarily a good thing. Certainly, Abimelech's ambition is not good. Abimelech got his uncles in Shechem, his mother's brothers, to promote him as ruler. All Shechem and nearby Beth Millo got behind him. The first step was to give Abimelech financing to raise a little army of worthless men, vain and light fellows, it says, for the purpose of killing Gideon's other sons. There's no indication that Gideon's other sons were posing any threat at all, or that they were attempting to rule in any way. Maybe they were, but the men of Shechem figure, let's just kill them so they won't oppose their brother, our homeboy, the son of the concubine. The financing came from the treasury of the temple of Baal-berith, so the money's as filthy as the purpose for which it was given. Coming up, here's how Abimelech used the money. Verse 5. He went to his father's house at Ophrah and killed his brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal, being 70 persons on one stone. But Jotham, the son of Jerubbaal, was left, for he hid himself. Comment: he killed them on a stone, meaning it was public, by overwhelming force and not by stealth. But Gideon's youngest son got away, Jotham. Verse 6. All the men of Shechem assembled themselves together in all the house of Millo, and went and made Abimelech king by the oak of the pillar that was in Shechem. Comment: the people of Shechem and Beth Millo think Abimelech has done a royal job killing his brothers, so they made him king. The coronation was by the oak of a pillar in Shechem. The pillar was probably some cultic object. Coming up, the son that got away has something to say. Verse 7. When it was told to Jotham, he went and stood on the top of Mount Gerizim and lifted up his voice and cried out and said to them, Listen to me, you men of Shechem, that God may listen to you. Comment: Jotham is crying out from the top of Mount Gerizim, which overlooks Shechem. Even though he says, Listen to me, you men of Shechem, there's no indication that anyone but God actually did hear. He's about to tell a parable and pronounce a blessing and a curse. Here's the parable. Verse 8. The trees set out to anoint a king over themselves. They said to the olive tree, Reign over us. But the olive tree said to them, Should I stop producing my oil with which they honor God and man by me, and go to wave back and forth over the trees? The trees said to the fig tree, Come and reign over us. But the fig tree said to them, Should I leave my sweetness and my good fruit, and go to wave back and forth over the trees? The trees said to the vine, Come and reign over us. But the vine said to them, Should I leave my new wine, which cheers God and man, and go to wave back and forth over the trees? Comment: the two trees and the grapevine represent three worthy men. A worthy man in Israel wants to take care of his own business and has no desire to rule over anyone. Yahweh is king in Israel. Israel needs no other king but him, 1 Samuel 10:19. So a righteous man doesn't seek to be king, and a righteous people doesn't seek to have one. But coming up, since no good man has any desire to rule as king, nor should have any desire, the following has happened. Verse 14. Then all the trees said to the bramble, Come and reign over us. The bramble said to the trees, If in truth you anoint me king over you, then come and take refuge in my shade. And if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. Comment, the bramble, this worthless man Abimelech, has said, make me king, and later on he'll say, keep me king or I'll kill you. That was the end of Jotham's parable. Now he'll pronounce a blessing and a curse. Verse 16, now therefore, if you have dealt truly and righteously in that you have made Abimelech king, and if you have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done to him according to the deserving of his hands, for my father fought for you and risked his life and delivered you out of the hand of Midian, and you have risen up against my father's house today and have slain his sons, 70 persons on one stone, and have made Abimelech the son of his female servant king over the men of Shechem, because he is your brother. If then you have dealt truly and righteously with Jerubbaal and with his house today, then rejoice in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. Comment, the blessing is that if you have made Abimelech king in the pursuit of truth and righteousness, then fine, may you and your king live happily ever after. Now coming up in the case Shechem, Beth Millo, and Abimelech have acted treacherously, this curse will apply. Verse 20, but if not, let fire come out from Abimelech and devour the men of Shechem and the house of Millo, and let fire come out from the men of Shechem and from the house of Millo and devour Abimelech. Comment, in other words, in case you have done this treacherously, may you all rise up against one another and kill each other. May you all die. Verse 21, Jotham ran away and fled and went to Beer and lived there for fear of Abimelech his brother. Comment, Jotham was in hiding even before he pronounced the curse because Abimelech had already killed his brothers. But after pronouncing the curse, he went to Beer, which is obscure, certainly far away, maybe out of the country. Verse 22, Abimelech was prince over Israel 3 years. Then God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the men of Shechem, and the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech, that the violence done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come, and that their blood might be laid on Abimelech their brother, who killed them, and on the men of Shechem, who strengthened his hands to kill his brothers. Comment, after the curse, nothing much happened for 3 years. Then God sent an evil spirit to bring conflict between Abimelech and his subjects, so that his subjects will rise up against him. This is the beginning of the curse that will kill Abimelech and all his former supporters. God's bringing justice, which will be the bright spot in this chapter. It's going to be ugly, but in it we can find the beauty of the justice of God. Verse 25, the men of Shechem set an ambush for him on the tops of the mountains, and they robbed all who came along that way by them, and Abimelech was told about it. Comment, the ambush was for Abimelech. His subjects have turned on him for no apparent reason other than the influence of that evil spirit. The men of the ambush are making some money on the side by robbing anyone who passes by, so this is just ugly on top of ugly. It's hard to find any redeeming thought anywhere in the land. The ambush didn't work because Abimelech heard about it, so now he's aware that things have gone sour. Now a new character comes on the scene, another scoundrel. Verse 26, Gaal, the son of Ebed, came with his brothers and went over to Shechem. And the men of Shechem put their trust in him. They went out into the field, harvested their vineyards, trod their grapes, celebrated, and went into the house of their God, and ate and drank, and cursed Abimelech. Gaal, the son of Ebed, said, Who is Abimelech, and who is Shechem, that we should serve him? Isn't he the son of Jerubbaal? Isn't Zebul his officer? Serve the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem, but why should we serve him? I wish that this people were under my hand, then I would remove Abimelech. He said to Abimelech, Increase your army and come out. Comment, a man named Gaal moved to Shechem, and for some reason the Shechemites trusted him. At the time of the grape harvest in the temple of Baal Berith, they threw a drunken celebration, which was probably a yearly thing. At the festival, Gaal made it known that he wants to be king. He knows the Shechemites hate King Abimelech, and he thinks he has enough support in town already to defeat Abimelech. So he invited Abimelech to attack. But Zebul, the mayor and ruler of the city, is faithful to Abimelech. Verse 30, When Zebul, the ruler of the city, heard the words of Gaal, the son of Ebed, his anger burned. He sent messengers to Abimelech craftily, saying, Behold, Gaal, the son of Ebed, and his brothers have come to Shechem, and behold, they incite the city against you. Now therefore, go up by night, you and the people who are with you, and lie in wait in the field. It shall be that in the morning As soon as the sun is up, you shall rise early and rush on the city. Behold, when he and the people who are with him come out against you, then may you do to them as you shall find occasion. Comment: Zebul, the mayor, has given Abimelech exactly the information he needs and just the right advice to pull off a victory against his rebellious subjects in Shechem. He told Abimelech the men of Shechem aren't relying on an ambush anymore. Gaal will lead an army out of Shechem with the intent of finding and killing you. Don't wait for them to come to you. Come to Shechem yourself in the night and surprise them when they exit the gate first thing in the morning. Abimelech will do exactly that. Verse 34. Abimelech rose up and all the people who were with him by night, and they laid wait against Shechem in 4 companies. Gaal the son of Ebed went out and stood in the entrance of the gate of the city. Abimelech rose up and the people who were with him from the ambush. Comment: Gaal and the men of Shechem are assembling themselves at the gate, getting ready to move out. It's still mostly dark with just a hint of light. Abimelech is already moving in on them with 4 companies. Coming up, Gaal begins to realize what's going on, but Zebul is trying to keep him in the dark until the last moment. Verse 36. When Gaal saw the people, he said to Zebul, Behold, people are coming down from the tops of the mountains. Zebul said to him, You see the shadows of the mountains as if they were men. Gaal spoke again and said, Behold, people are coming down by the middle of the land, and one company comes by the way of the oak of Meonanim. Comment: Meonanim means sorcerer, the sorcerer's oak. That's just another little detail which shows how lost this culture has become. There's open idolatry and sorcery. Gaal is sure about it now. He knows he's being attacked before he was ready. Verse 38. Then Zebul said to him, Now where is your mouth that you said, Who is Abimelech, that we should serve him? Isn't this the people that you have despised? Please go out now and fight with them. Comment: Abimelech has done just what Zebul told him to do, and Zebul's quite happy with the way things are going. Verse 39. Gaal went out before the men of Shechem and fought with Abimelech. Abimelech chased him, and he fled before him, and many fell wounded, even to the entrance of the gate. Comment: That was the end of round 1. Abimelech won that battle and went home. Gaal has been discredited in Shechem, so now, verse 41. Abimelech lived at Arumah, and Zebul drove out Gaal and his brothers, that they should not dwell in Shechem. Comment: Gaal was forced out of Shechem, which was good for him because in the next battle, on the very next day, Shechem will come out against Abimelech again, and Abimelech will wipe them out. Verse 42. On the next day, the people went out into the field, and they told Abimelech. Comment: In other words, on the next day, Shechem assembled for another offensive strike on Abimelech, this time without Gaal. But again, Abimelech got advance warning, and again he'll meet them as they're coming out of the city. Abimelech did the following. Verse 43. He took the people and divided them into 3 companies and laid wait in the field. And he looked, and behold, the people came out of the city. So he rose up against them and struck them. Abimelech and the companies that were with him rushed forward and stood in the entrance of the gate of the city, and the 2 companies rushed on all who were in the field and struck them. Comment: This time after the men of Shechem came out, Abimelech led a company straight to the gate and cut off the way of retreat back into the city. Then his 2 other companies slaughtered the Shechemite army. Now Abimelech will enter the city. Verse 45. Abimelech fought against the city all that day, and he took the city and killed the people in it. He beat down the city and sowed it with salt. Comment: Now there are only a few Shechemites left holed up in the city tower. Verse 46. When all the men of the tower of Shechem heard of it, they entered into the stronghold of the house of El-Berith. Comment: That was a poor strategic move. Instead of staying in the tower, they've moved to the temple of Baal-Berith. They hope their God will save them. Verse 47. Abimelech was told that all the men of the tower of Shechem were gathered together. Abimelech went up to Mount Zalmon, he and all the people who were with him. Comment: Mount Zalmon is an unknown location, but from what happens next, it must be the place with the nearest available firewood very close to Shechem. Still in verse 48. And Abimelech took an axe in his hand and cut down a bough from the trees and took it up and laid it on his shoulder. Then he said to the people who were with him, What you have seen me do, make haste and do as I have done. Comment: In other words, cut firewood and follow me. Verse 49. All the people did likewise. Each cut down his bough and followed Abimelech, and put them at the base of the stronghold, and set the stronghold on fire on them, so that all the people of the tower of Shechem died also, about 1,000 men and women. Comment: Abimelech set fire to the temple. Those who didn't die by the sword died in the temple by fire. That's the end of Shechem, and that was God's payback for encouraging and financing the slaughter of Gideon's 70 sons. It's fitting that the temple of Baal-berith was destroyed, as that was the source of the financing. Now Abimelech will go to another town, one that we haven't heard of, but the men there must be allied with the men of Shechem in their hatred of Abimelech. Verse 50. Then Abimelech went to Thebez and encamped against Thebez and took it. But there was a strong tower within the city, and all the men and women of the city fled there and shut themselves in and went up to the roof of the tower. Abimelech came to the tower and fought against it, and came near to the door of the tower to burn it with fire. A certain woman cast an upper millstone on Abimelech's head and broke his skull. Then he called hastily to the young man his armor-bearer, and said to him, "Draw your sword and kill me, that men not say of me, a woman killed him." His young man thrust him through, and he died. When the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, they each departed to his place. Comment: the town of Thebez wasn't part of the curse. Apparently they didn't have a hand in killing Gideon's sons. Now the curse is complete. Abimelech killed everyone in Shechem, and then some of Abimelech's other former followers killed him. All the bad guys turned on each other because God fulfilled Jotham's curse. Verse 56. Thus God repaid the wickedness of Abimelech, which he did to his father in killing his 70 brothers. And God repaid all the wickedness of the men of Shechem on their heads, and the curse of Jotham the son of Jerubbaal came on them. Comment: God repaid all the wickedness. In verse 7, Gideon's youngest son Jotham pronounced the blessing and the curse in the name of God, and that was the only beam of light coming from man in this entire chapter. Judges 10 is next at landofhavilah.net. Judges 10. This is the map of Judges 9. Abimelech was born in Shechem here, but in this chapter he lived in Arumah, unknown location. He went to Ophrah to kill his half-brothers, the other sons of Gideon, approximate location of Ophrah. The survivor, Jotham, spoke from Mount Gerizim. Zooming in on Shechem, Mount Gerizim is here. Shechem was in the valley with Mount Gerizim on the south and Mount Ebal on the north. Zooming out, Thebez is here. A woman mortally wounded Abimelech here by throwing down a millstone from the city tower and breaking his skull. Judges 10 is next.